Welcome to the Hoops&Huddle podcast. I am Malika, and he is
Brandon with the rubric. Thanks for having me again, Malika. It's been a hell of a week. A lot of things going on. But who we got today? What we got going?
Hell of a week. You're like, thanks for having me. This is our thanks for having me. I wanted to this week we're doing our off-season episode with Bibs of Mavs Outsiders Podcast. It's so funny because we scheduled this day for the podcast, and right before we're recording, there was a big trade that went down. Grant Williams being sent to the Mavs. I know the Hornets were going to put in an offer also, but they probably didn't want to give up any picks, or it was probably a little bit too heavy for them in terms of with the picks and stuff. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about, because you guys are losing Reggie Bullock. Are you losing anyone else besides? I have looking at the trade, and I know you're losing Reggie Bullock, and we could talk about you as a Mavs fan, how you feel about that. And I know it's a sign and trade, and
I need the details.
It's interesting. So tell us what you tell us your vibe on the trade and how you feel about it.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I'm still trying to get my bearings back after the trade, because all day we've been talking about, if the Hornets are trying to get Grant Williams, can we get in on PJ Washington? And in my head, I think PJ Washington is a better player than Grant Williams, personally.
I do too. I think the Hornets are stupid for not locking him in for 4 years. Give him the 4 for 80 and call it a day, and try to get rid of Terry Rozier at the trade deadline. Like, you can't let him sign a qualifying offer, because next year you're going to have Miles Bridges out there unrestricted, and you'll have PJ too. It'll be a loss, because I don't think their backups are ready. They're too young, and they're not ready. You see in the summer league, they're not ready. So you need to sign PJ, because if you sign that qualifying offer, you're losing both of them, and that's a disaster. Right. But I get why you want PJ. I honestly thought a trade was going to happen for I was thinking Tim, because you guys still have Junior over there. So I thought that it was going to be a trade maybe for him to go to Charlotte, but not even that. So I just was, because it was sounding like the PJ Washington was almost a done deal, the way that it was being reported. So I guess it didn't happen fast enough. But your thoughts. Sorry,
I think Grant was going to end up in Charlotte and PJ was going to end up in Dallas. So that's been in my head all day. So now to have this trade go down, first of all, you might not be familiar with how I feel about Reggie Bullock. Me and Reese on the Mavs Outsiders, we've been calling him the Winter Soldier, because he can't shoot until the winter solstice arrives. Like, if you go the first part of the year, he's shooting like 20% from the field, and then after the winter solstice hits, all of a sudden he can't miss. So we were calling him the Winter Soldier over there. So I'm glad I don't have a half of the season player on my roster anymore. And then we did need an upgrade at the 4. Like, right before this trade, we were looking at Maxi Kleber, whose body's falling apart, it seems, over the past few years. Mm-hmm. And then rookie Maxence Prosper. Like, that's what we were looking at for our power forward position. So adding Grant Williams to that fold is a guy that we know we can play at least 25 minutes. And when we play Maxi that type of time, his body falls apart. So we're not going to be ending up dependent on a rookie right out of the gates. So I definitely feel good about it. Not going to miss Reggie Bullock, because he was getting in the way of my boy Josh Green. And the other pieces of the trade, we did a 2030 pick swap.
Yeah.
Spurs. I'm not thinking about no 13-year-olds right now. And And then we got 2 second, I don't even know how, but we got 2 second round picks out of this trade somehow. So
something with the Spurs. That's why I was like, okay, I got to look at all of the pieces of the trade. But you got 2 draft picks, you got, second rounders, you got Grant Williams, and somehow Boston gets 2 as well.
Right.
So I think those are the swaps you were talking, like you were talking about.
Boston's getting 2 seconds. We're getting 2 seconds. We're doing a swap with San Antonio. So yeah, I think that I think I forgot what I was talking about. No, we got the second round picks, and I think that they're probably going to be used to get rid of JaVale McGee. Like, we've been trying to get rid of JaVale McGee.
You guys have, yeah.
So we had the trade in place for Ayton, but JaVale McGee held it up. The Suns didn't want to take JaVale McGee because it was going to cost them another 20-30 million on their books, basically, and it's in a luxury tax. And we simply wanted him off our roster. Now, I would have done Rashawn Holmes and Tim Hardaway Jr. and figured out the JaVale McGee situation later, but the Mavs didn't want to do that. So I'll expect that those seconds end up getting flipped to get rid of JaVale McGee. And they're apparently still shopping Tim Hardaway Jr. to get him out of the way.
Yeah, Tim Hardaway. Yeah, I figured he was going to be shopped. I don't know where he's going to end up. That's why I thought that was going to be a trade. Tim Hardaway Jr. And maybe a pick or for PJ. It was going to be a sign and trade, but nope.
What do you think? What do you think this does for the team, though? Like, how much does this move the needle? Like, I get that you get somewhat better, but we're not in this, and you're not in this to get an extra 10 games out the regular season, extra 20 games, and 3 more wins in a playoff series. Like, nah. Like, you trying to really go deep into the playoffs. It doesn't feel like any of these moves really do that.
So I hear you. So what we've done so far that I like is somebody pointed it out a minute ago when I was on Twitter. For the first time, we've gotten even a little bit better and younger.
Okay.
So that where we're at today, if we keep the players we have, we should get better naturally with the players we have. Like, Josh Green is going to get better. Grant Williams is going to get better. Like, none of these guys are in their prime yet. Lively and Maxence Prosper should get better. Jaden Hardy should get better. Like, we've been an old team for a long time, despite our best player being 24 years old. And so now we're starting to slowly get a little bit younger. The only thing I think that's missing from this roster right now is a actual rim protector at center. So that allegedly is what we're after next. With Luka, in my opinion, you don't need a lot. And now we got Luka and Kyrie, so that's 50 points right there off the bat. The rest of these guys just need to give us a little bit. And if everybody else plays defense, then the rest just take care of itself. So Grant Williams as a defender, Josh Green, we know he can defend. Lively's supposed to be eventually a rim protector. Right now, I don't know how much we can depend on him, but they're trying to load up with defensive wing type players to throw around Luka and Kyrie so they can just score all the points and not have to work as hard on defense.
But does Kyrie and Luka work? Like, I get that they're going to be high volume scorers, and it feels like a lot of time it's going to be a yo-yo. You go ahead and get your 35, I'll get my 20. Next game, you get your 35, I get my 20. But I don't see, as much as people talk about the Nets, when they were together,
right,
they all were scoring 30, 35 points every. Now, they didn't play a lot of those games together, but when they did, they were. And there was a third player that they could get into the mix. It feels like the ball doesn't move as much. Is that accurate or like?
So there was a lot of talk about whether or not it worked at the end of the season. I'm gonna take it back even a step further with Jalen Brunson. I don't think a scoring guard is the answer next to Luka Doncic. Like, if I'm designing a team, that's not what I would want. I want a two-way guard, a guy that can get buckets, doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, like catch and shoot, maybe a couple bounces and get a shot up. Like a Gary Trent Jr. is a guy I had in mind as the type of player I would want next to Luka. He's going to play hard on defense on one end and just hit shots on the other end. Doesn't need the ball.
Like a Klay?
Like a Klay Thompson. Like, that's the type of complimentary player that I would want next to Luka. So when we had Jalen Brunson, it was, okay, this can be a good team with Luka and Jalen Brunson, but I don't know if this is really the optimal situation. So now, obviously, Kyrie's better than Jalen Brunson, but it's the same dynamic of two ball dominant, guys that need the ball to score, and are pretty much just going to take turns ISOing people or whatever.
Yep.
So starting from that, I don't think it's optimal, but I think it can be successful. I think we could be a middle of the pack playoff team, bare minimum. Yep. And, you know, depending on how things play out, injuries, matchups, whatever, we could accidentally break through with those two.
Okay.
Now, one thing that I was watching at the end of the season was Kyrie flirting with shopping around to see if there was some interest. And I just think with the new CBA, and as soon as free agency opened, teams were on it. Like they were making their decisions pretty quick. You had to new CBA, the full CBA dropped 2 days before free agency opened. And teams were on it and they knew the decisions they wanted to make with their rosters. And I feel like this free agent market wasn't exactly an A+ market. To me, this was C's. This was a C, a regular C free agency market. There really wasn't much out there. I figured we'll see more trades, and we haven't seen as much as I thought we would see, to be honest with you. But with Kyrie flirting, I was like, Kyrie, there's no, you know, when you saw the money drying up pretty quickly, that's another thing. The money dried up fast because of the new CBA. Teams are hard capped. They can't just sign they can't just sign them and do it that way. So were you at all a tiny bit nervous about Kyrie, or were you like, you ain't going nowhere, man? What are you doing?
So first of all, I didn't want Kyrie. Like, before we did the trade, I even had gone out of my way to say, like, I don't even know if I would trade blah 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 for a Kyrie Irving. Like the day before, like when I was on the podcast, making jokes about like I wouldn't trade Spencer Dinwiddie and whatever for Kyrie Irving or whatever. And of course we did.
Basketball reasons or off-court reasons?
Off-court reasons.
Okay.
Just because I felt like we had enough distractions and problems going on. I just didn't want to add to that, and I already knew how fans were going to act. I didn't want to have to deal with it. I didn't want to have to deal with that as a fan.
But in a way, though, to be honest, I'm sorry to cut you off. Texas is a good market for Kyrie because, you know, like I just feel like Texas is perfect for, you know, like, you know, hey, if the mandate happened, like if we had that mandate, he wouldn't have a problem because he plays for the Dallas Mavericks. You know what I mean? Like, and he could say, you know, the fans have backed some of the things he did, and I feel like Dallas is the funny thing. Yeah, I think Dallas is a good spot for Kyrie. That's the funny thing. So it's funny to hear you say that. LA, I don't think that would have meshed well. Right. I don't think that would have. They didn't want it. Some fans wanted him, but other fans didn't.
Right.
So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's definitely has played out. And there are some people that still are like really hard and I don't want them and this, that, and the third. But after he came in, for the first time, I was forced to actually pay attention to him. Because for the most part, I see enough crazy stuff, I'm just gonna tune it out. But now he's on my team, I have to actually pay attention to him. My boy Shad Miller got a one-on-one interview with him that the team was mad about because they didn't realize it was happening at the time. But he got a one-on-one interview with him, and he talked about like his life and like learning from his mistakes and where he's at now as a man, like with using meditation and being a father and this, that, and the third. And it was like, hold up, so he maybe he has matured a bit, like maybe he does get it. And when I listened to the stuff he was saying, the way he's talking about like how he's moving forward in his life, I realized that Dallas actually probably does make a lot of sense for him because the media is not hard on the players at all.
It's a fresh start. It's a fresh start for him. And at the end of it, I will say, as a Nets fan, him and KD's time it was not. First of all, I will say it was an honor to watch them. And all fans don't feel this way. I'm not speaking for all Nets fans. I'm speaking for Malika. To have players of that caliber play for the Nets and to be able to go to Barclays and see them play at home well in the night state, because we were able to see KD more than the other, Harden and Kyrie. But it was really cool to see, especially with Kyrie being from Jersey. He is one of the greatest guards. I don't care that he didn't make the top 75. Him with the ball in his hands is a show. Like, he's amazing to watch with the ball in his hands. It's an honor to watch him play. I used to get some great seats and just watch him marvel at the ball when he was on the court. Him and KD, they're not there anymore. And you guys have the opportunity to see the greatest show on earth. Because I think that he wants to go out there and prove that he is him. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and playing with Luka, I think they'll figure. Luka wanted him there. He called him apparently just to make sure that he comes in and joins, and signs his contract. So I think this year with like some of the moves that you guys are making, trying to clean up the roster a bit. I like some of the moves you guys made, and I think you'll get an active, engaged Kyrie. You have Luka as your number one option, and hey, we'll see what happens. What hopes do you have? I mean, what other move they have? They still have the MLE, right? So Matisse Thybulle, they're trying to bring him in. How do you feel about that?
All right, I gotta finish the Kyrie piece real quick. I'll close.
Okay.
So again, Kyrie, media's not gonna be hard on him. People are leaving him alone, and he seemed happy. So going into like his decision, I was worried that he would drag it out because I feel like he's the type of person, he doesn't want to feel like he's trapped into anything. He has options. But so the fact that he signed within 45 minutes shocked me, first of all. So I feel good about him coming back. I don't think he's going to be a problem. He's given us no reason to think he's going to be a problem in Dallas. Matisse Thybulle, I'm not a huge fan of. I understand.
He's a defensive guard, right? I mean, it gives you a defensive presence on the floor.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I like coming out of college. Like, he was a guy I thought, because I think he stayed in school for 4 years. I think his junior year, he shot really well from three. And then he fell off a cliff his senior year when they moved the 3-point line back a little bit. And he just hasn't really found it in the NBA. I think that there's still potential there that he'll be able to figure that out. And if he does, then he's a useful player. As long as he's behind Josh Green in the rotation right now, I'm fine with him being on the roster. If that means that I don't have to look at Theo Pinson in the Dallas Mavericks jersey, I'm happy with it, to be honest. But yeah, I think that they didn't say they're using a full MLE. From what I can understand, they have like 9 million left before they'd be over that tax line.
The first apron.
Yeah, I think they're 9 million below the first apron after this Grant Williams trade. So I think the offer is going to be somewhere slightly below that. Again, I know that they want defensive players around Luka and Kyrie. I think that he still has a chance to figure it out as far as the shot. And I mean, more Aussies on the team. We're just going to be Aussied up with Kyrie, Josh Green, and Matisse.
What I worry about, I want to get your take. How does Dallas stack up in their current lineup or potential moves they can make to compete with these more athletic or active bigs that they're going to be facing? Let's say Zion, if he's healthy, Ayton, the Joker, AD, like I don't see anybody on the squad that can without giving up time and energy from your guards who are going to have to be productive and chase guys around a lot more. Like, I just don't know how do they keep up with some of those cats. Am I seeing something? What do you think?
Yeah, that's how Jason Kidd wants to play. He wants to be switching everything and flying around all over the place. We still do need a center. Like right now, our center rotation, if nothing changes, is Rashawn Holmes, Dwight Powell, JaVale McGee, and the rookie Lively. Like that's not acceptable at all. So that, in my opinion, like everything they've done, I can't complain about. But I'm not. If we end this off season without addressing that starting center position, then we're still going into a bad situation. Like I'm not that is the key to this offseason being a success. The names I've heard, Zubac. For some reason, Jared Allen apparently is a name that people are saying. I don't understand why Cleveland would be trading him, but he's apparently a guy that we're talking about. Ayton allegedly is off the table, but maybe the Suns come back to the table on that. I don't know what his situation is there.
Their salary is insane, but yeah.
It ain't my money. But yeah, so until we get that center position resolved, the rest of it does not look as sexy as I would like it to look, to be honest. And Grant Williams being, again, that's another reason I like PJ more than Grant, because I feel like PJ can guard up a little bit more. Like he can play some small ball five a little bit more convincingly than Grant Williams can. Okay. Even though some seem to think he can do that.
There will definitely be help with the second unit too with Grant Williams, especially on being more active on defense. That was just a gap that I saw across the board with that team all year. It was like, oh goodness.
Yeah.
Not nobody.
Yeah. Couldn't go.
Huh?
So
now when I look at okay, you said the starting center is a role you want to see because you definitely want Christian Wood out of there, right?
There's no way he's coming back to Dallas. That relationship is dead.
It's done.
He just seemed he can't find a spot. So besides the starting center, is there another hole you want to fill on the roster, or that would make you feel more comfortable? Assuming PJ is just going to take the qualifying offer in Charlotte, and you don't want Matisse. Is there somebody out there that you wouldn't mind adding to your roster this offseason that you can possibly get?
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's something that I'm wondering, like, how they get better, like, to move to conference finals, like getting to that hump. Like, that's the moves that I'm interested in, like what they're going to be able to do. I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
What you got?
Yeah, so the center position is the key, but if I'm looking at this team as it stands, I'm happy with the starting lineup if we fix that center situation.
Okay.
I honestly don't hate the bench in that scenario because I like Maxi Kleber as a back. Like if you're looking at an 8-man rotation, Maxi Kleber plays the 4, he plays the 5, he hits threes. Like I'm good with that. Seth Curry as a shooter off the bench.
Yeah.
That.
And he loves Dallas apparently. So
I mean, it's his third time.
It's his third time going there. Yeah.
I had just put the Seth Curry jersey away instead. I'm never going to wear this again. And then we got him back. The only thing I could think of is like maybe another scorer, like another person that can come in and get buckets. And so then Kelly Oubre is a name that comes to mind.
I'm still shocked that he's not signed. I had conversations because I'm in a Hornets Discord because I can't do Hornets on Twitter. It's just too negative. And like of course Nets is my number one team, but I keep tabs on them. And I asked, why is Kelly not getting interest? And it was like, well, is he may not be seen as a winning player or a player that makes the right decisions in crunch time. So is that a concern of yours possibly with Kelly Oubre? Maybe that's why teams aren't jumping on him because he's right there. So he's unrestricted. He's right there.
I 100% think that he falls into that mold. That's kind of one of my favorite types of players. The players that they're fun to watch from time to time. They come out, they can get you 20 by accident, but they're not necessarily efficient. They don't always make the best decisions. J.R. Smith is a guy I remember that used to be one of those guys until he landed in the right spot and was used the right way, could be corralled by the right player. I think Luka Doncic, when people talk about, he's going to play with Luka Doncic, Luka's going to get the most out of him, blah, blah, blah. That hasn't always been the case with players, but it has been the case with these inefficient bucket getters. Spencer Dinwiddie, look at his numbers in Dallas versus the rest of his career. He's never been more efficient than when he was beside Luka. Tim Hardaway Jr., when he plays with Luka, all of a sudden he's an efficient player. Every other situation.
In New York, he was stop playing. Stop
exactly.
playing. Yeah.
But these inefficient bucket getters work beside Luka. So I would be very interested in seeing Kelly. Because he's only going to give you the ball when it's time for you to shoot it. He's not giving you the ball in situations to make decisions. Like, it's all right, now shoot it, Kelly. Go ahead. Like, that's the type of situation it's going to be. So.
Okay.
Now, we talked about the team and kind of what you're hoping to see from, in terms of rotation. Let's go to your coach and let's talk about your coaching staff, Jason Kidd and his staff. What are your hopes for there in terms of versus last year? What changes you hope to see from your coaching staff? Let's talk about that.
So they did just add two veteran assistants, which was nice to see. I know there's still some talk about Jeff Van Gundy coming along. I'm not sure that's necessary at this point. But yeah, I think that one of my main problems with Jason Kidd as a coach is he's not one of these flexible coaches that will adapt his play style to the players that he has. He has how he wants to play. And last year that resulted in a disaster defensively because the way he wanted to play defense just did not work with the personnel that he had, but he was not adaptable to that. I think that so far this offseason, Nico has made moves to give him the type of players he needs to play the way that he wants to play defensively. And then offensively, they got a cheat code with Luka and Kyrie pretty much motoring everything. So I would like to see Jason Kidd be more flexible with the young guys. I think he did a terrible job of managing Josh Green last year. You look at last year, we came into the league, to the season. Reggie Bullock, I mentioned, shooting 20% from the field for like 2.5 months. Josh Green was coming off the bench shooting like 60% from three for 2.5 months. And it took that long for Jason Kidd to decide that Josh Green might need to start a little bit. Then Josh Green kind of cools off a little bit, and Justin Holiday shows up, hits 6 threes or 5 threes, however many it was, off the bench, his first game. And now suddenly Justin Holiday's the starting small forward and Josh Green is back on the bench. Josh Green went into last summer talking about his confidence being terrible because of Rick Carlisle, how he did him, and working on his confidence. So now he gets his confidence up. He's starting to look like an NBA player, and you immediately replace him with a scab on a 10-day contract after a couple bad games. And he was pretty much shot again after that. So Kidd has to be more aware of the decisions he's making, and again, more flexible with the young guys. I think he defers to the vets, even when the vets are playing bad, and he has a short leash on the young guys when the young guys have a couple off games.
Okay. Jason Kidd. You guys drafted him. He was a Nets. He's still, in terms of accomplishment in a net uniform, besides Dr. J, he took us to the finals. So we he does have an interesting pass off the court, but in terms of on the court, we love and respect Jason Kidd. In terms of the Dallas Mavericks fan base, let me go back. We love and respect Jason Kidd as a player and what he did for our franchise. Let me be clear, because the coaching side is different. How do Maverick fans feel about Jason Kidd? What is his approval? I had the president campaigns do the approval ratings. What would be his approval rating within the Mavericks fan base at the moment?
I would probably say it's around a 30-35 at best.
Wow, that low. Okay.
So y'all wanted to see a change this offseason.
I know that Mark Cuban doesn't fire people. So I've accepted Jason Kidd is here for at least a few more years. Like the Western Conference Finals run is going to buy him at least 5 years. if the championship bought Rick Carlisle 10. So that's not in my head, but yes, you can go search fire Jason Kidd right now and you will find a ton of tweets of people saying fire Jason Kidd all through the season last year. There are a lot of people, myself included, that were against the hiring in the first place. Like, I remember when the job opened up, Jason Kidd rumor came out. I literally said Jason Kidd is the last person that we need to hire for multiple reasons. Jason Mid, search Jason Mid, and you will find a ton of tweets, because his career has been 500 pretty much across the board the entire time. Like, he doesn't raise the floor. He doesn't push through the ceiling. Like, he gets at best, he's an average coach. And you can say maybe he's a good developmental coach. Okay, he needs to be an assistant then. He needs to be an assistant, a developmental coach assistant. But between that and then, of course, you mentioned the off the court issues. Like, our franchise has had a lot of ties to the assault, the Me Too situation. It didn't feel like the type of person we needed to be bringing in to our culture. And they addressed that and they moved on. And, you know, me and Reese both have said he's here. We can't do nothing about it. We got to give him a chance. Western Conference Finals run, fantastic. Missing the play-in, trash. So this is year 3. He's got some convincing to do. He's got to win some people over with this coaching job this year. So we'll see how that plays out.
Have you been pleased with the work that Nico has done since being there?
I think there was some slight, like, he's coming into a rough situation. Like, Donnie kind of messed us up with the KP trade and blah, 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 blah. The roster's old. As of today, yes, everybody's on. It's like 99% Nico approval rate at this point in time. He's done what we couldn't ask for more than he's done so far in this role. He's drafted well. He's found steals. He's identified players that he wanted when we didn't have the picks to get those players, and went and got them, and Jaden Hardy and Maxence Prosper. So draft, I think people already believed in him, in his ability to find talent in the draft. But this offseason, what he's been able to do with the trades and the acquisitions, people are starting to believe in him as a negotiator, decision maker. And maybe we need to give Dennis Lindsey, who we stole from Utah, maybe we need to give him some of that credit as well for helping figure out the details and how to make these things happen.
Okay, that's fair.
So we're gonna round out that. Let's talk about your owner, Mark Cuban. And I feel like when he got his championship, and he got his championship as an owner, so with Dirk. But I'm from the outside looking in, because hey, the Nets haven't got a championship since the ABA, so I can't, I mean, hey, it is what it is. But at least you guys have one. What are your thoughts on Mark Cuban today?
Okay.
Do you want him to sell the team?
Today, yeah. If I found out Mark Cuban was selling the team tomorrow, it would be a great day. I'm very much over the Mark Cuban experience. Going back to what you mentioned, winning the championship, I feel like after he won the championship, he moved to, I want my fantasy team, like, versus just being smart. And he wasted the last several 5, 6, 7 years of Dirk's career, trying to chase superstars and not really doing the work to get them, just having cap space every year. Like, people wanted, he missed the idea that players are going to want to go to a team they feel like is competitive, but you're trying to just have money to give them to then make your team competitive after the fact. And that's just not how that works. So at about 5 years after the championship, I was pretty much over Mark Cuban, and that has not changed as of today. The off the court stuff has not helped, between his comments about crossing the street if he saw a kid in a hoodie, to the hidden sexual assault allegations behind the scenes. Then they get a test, even the year of the bubble, with another situation that comes up, and they didn't handle that well either. So between that, all that stuff, and then his inability to say no to a microphone, I would like to move on from Mark Cuban as the owner of the team. But
You got a fine for tanking, right?
What's that? Yeah, we're talking about it.
Oh,
we're talking about it. You just can't shut up. Just can't shut up.
Yeah. Approval rating
from Mark Cuban.
Bam.
10%.
Okay.
There was a dude that they had to throw out.
I'm not even down on Psy that much. I mean, I'm not exactly the Psy.
I give Psy what 12% at least. We give him 12.
Yeah, there's a dude walking around with a fire Mark Cuban sign. He got thrown out of a couple games at the end of last year. Like people are very much. There are some people that still love him. I probably should bump that out to 2025. But like my circles, nobody likes Mark Cuban.
Got it. That's fair.
Wow, I wasn't expecting to hear that. I wasn't expecting to hear 10%. Now, we're at the end. So are there any words you want to say about that we didn't cover about the offseason? We talked about ownership. We talked about GM, coaches, and a rotation. Is there anything else you want? And I meant to ask you, actually, I forgot to mention, how do you feel about Christy Tolliver as an assistant coach? Any thoughts on her contribution in that avenue? And then you can add anything you want to end the conversation with.
Most definitely. So as a Mystics fan, I think and I was a Christy Tolliver fan back in college. I had a crush on her actually, but that's a whole nother thing. Christy Tolliver's always been like one of my favorite players to watch. So it's awesome to be able to have her on the bench and see how the players respect her and respond to her in practice. Have her sharing her knowledge of the game with the young guards and stuff like that. So I definitely, every time I see a clip with her doing like shooting around with the rookies and stuff like that, it always gets me excited. I'm looking forward to getting her back on the bench this year after her return to Washington, which has been, I could go on a tangent about the Mystics, but I'm gonna try not to do that here. But
right.
I think it's great that the Mavs have. One good thing they've done is always keeping a woman on the bench, even before Christy Tolliver. So I got to give them credit for that.
Hell, Sant Marshall, only Black female CEO in the NBA. Like,
yeah. So
get it. I'm like, all right, y'all did it. Okay.
Yeah, and I almost gave away something I'm not supposed to say, but yeah, she's working on some stuff behind the scenes I think will make a lot of people happy as well. So I'm looking forward to her putting her stamp on the team going forward also.
Gotcha.
Well, awesome. Well, we are done, and I want to thank you for being here. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yep. So you can find me on Twitter at Bibs Corner. That's all that's where I'm going to be tweeting all day when I shouldn't be. Mavs Outsiders is the podcast. You can find that on Twitter at Mavs Outsiders, Instagram, Mavs Outsiders Pod. And anywhere you find your podcast, you can find us. We just started an NBA show, but that's behind the Patreon paywall. We're kind of testing it out to see how that goes. But and my co-host Reese Emavar 25 on Twitter as well. So.
Now, are you doing any spaces at all, or pop-up spaces or anything?
We passed the spaces torch off to our guys, 77 Spaces. They'll be doing spaces, but we couldn't. Spaces was not for us. Spaces was not for us.
It's all good. Thank you. I appreciate you jumping on here, give us some insight on the Mavs. One of the teams I think a lot of folks forget about. They don't see them as much, except when Luka's playing. So having your perspective is solid. So I appreciate it, my man.
No, I appreciate y'all having me.
Thank you, Bibs.